How did the entity's most devoted disciple end up as just another survivor in the fog? This is the story of Tori Kane. Tori and her older brother Ewan were born and raised in a quiet suburb on the outskirts of Glasgow. Though it was uncommon in Scotland, the siblings were kept at home, sheltered from the world by their parents' choice to homeschool them. Otherwise, to the outside eye, they were nothing more than typical children, seemingly indistinguishable from their peers. But beneath that veneer of normalcy, a far darker reality existed. Their parents were not the simple, everyday figures they appeared to be. They belonged to something far more sinister, a secret society only known to a few. And from the moment Tori and Ewan were born, their lives were destined to serve a darker purpose. They were raised to become disciples, not of a church or of a faith, but of an ancient shadowy cult known as the Disciples of the Black Talon. This enigmatic group has lingered in the shadows for generations, devoted to an ancient deity that resides beyond the veil of our reality, in a dimension far removed from our own. We know it as an entity, but they call it the Black Talon, a being they believe is guiding humanity towards a transcendence beyond the limitations of mortal existence. Though none can say what that truly means, or at what cost. Hey, if you enjoy the video, will you please let me know by teabagging the like button at the exit gates and leaving a comment down below. Thanks. Vincent Cain, a professor of archaeology, and his wife Rachel, an expert in anthropology, seemed like a typical scholarly couple. Their family vacations were anything but ordinary, however. While most families flocked to theme parks, the Cains ventured into forgotten corners of the earth, to the crumbling remnants of ancient civilizations. But these weren't mere historical sites. They were places where the fabric of reality frayed. These locations, often steeped in mystery, intersected with the Black Talon's realm. The disciples called these intersections the Bleed, and they believed that within these fractured spaces lay the hidden remnants of forbidden knowledge, discarded technologies, and the cryptic secrets left behind by ascendant disciples of a distant otherworldly realm. In their pursuit of answers, the Cains ventured closer to something they could never truly understand. The Bleed is no place for the faint of heart. It is a realm of unfathomable dangers to both body and mind, where reality itself bends and warps into something unrecognizable. Those brave enough to go inside wore heavy armored hazmat suits, supposed shields against the horrors that lurk within. But even those who wore them were never truly safe. No one knew how effective these suits actually were, nor dared to test their limits. Many of those who ventured into the Bleed did not return the same, if they returned at all. The disciples of the Black Talon understood the risks and built their bases deep underground, near to every Bleed they discovered. These complexes, hidden away from the prying eyes of the world, contained everything that the disciples needed to continue their work. Living quarters, storage, and laboratories where they conducted their dark research. But no one outside the disciples knows the true extent of their experiments, hidden beneath the surface, in the depths of those cold, dark halls. One day, Vincent Cain ventured into one of the Bleeds, driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge. At the time, his children Tori and Ewan were still mere fledglings, unaware of the darkness that their father was about to enter. And then, just as suddenly as he had gone in, Vincent vanished without a trace. After he didn't return, desperation drove his wife Rachel to follow him into the Bleed, but she too disappeared into the void. Driven by an unrelenting desire to find their parents, both Tori and Ewan snuck into the forbidden chamber, but when they arrived, the protective suits they needed were gone. Only one remained, but it was old and in disrepair. To make matters worse, it didn't fit Tori at all. It was too big. But she refused to give up on her parents. She would enter the Bleed no matter the cost. Ewan, stricken with fear, could not bring himself to follow her. He stayed behind, paralyzed by terror, as his sister stepped into the darkness alone and unprotected. The moment Tori crossed the threshold, she found herself in a horrifying new realm. The air twisted and writhed, thick with an oppressive sense of dread. The very fabric of reality seemed to tear at the seams. Screams echoed through the void and feral growls reverberated in the air. Something slithered, unseen, stalking her from the corners of this nightmarish realm, where two worlds had collided. She could sense the eyes of dark predators on her, cold, hungry, unblinking, following her every move. Terrified yet determined, Tori fought to keep her wits, clinging to whatever thread of reason remained. Then in the dark, she found the remnants of a hazmat suit, ripped apart, along with the partial remains of its previous owner. And then 100 feet ahead, she saw him, her father. Vincent Cain, his body slumped and unconscious, was still encased in his suit. The predators began to circle, drawn to her like vultures. She fought to drag her father to safety, but there were too many closing in, cutting off any hope of escape. Just when all hope seemed lost, Ewan appeared, wearing the old, oversized protective suit. In a last-ditch effort to save her, he attracted the attention of the supernatural creatures and charged into the darkness, leading them away with a cry of defiance. Tori, her heart pounding, seized the moment, dragging her father back to safety. As she emerged from the abyss, her father in tow, the echoes of her brother's screams reverberated in her ears, haunting her. But she was unharmed, and more impressively, her mind was intact. A fact that astonished even the disciples of the Black Talon. Her father survived his ordeal, though he would never again set foot in the bleed, forever changed by what he had experienced. Tori's body, however, bore no marks of her ordeal, no wounds or scars to betray what she had endured. But something unseen had touched her, a shadow that lingered deep within her heart. From that moment, her nights were haunted by vivid, recurring visions, each more harrowing than the last. She came to believe that these were not mere dreams, but omens, guiding her towards an inescapable destiny. She knew with absolute certainty that she was fated to serve the Black Talon as a disciple. The path to enlightenment within the cult was shrouded in secrecy. For most, the journey was slow and arduous, with the knowledge trickling down like drops of water to the parched. Acolytes earned their way upward, graduating tier by tier as scraps of forbidden truths were revealed to them. But Tori was different. Her rise through the ranks was meteoric, fueled by her visions and clarity of purpose. The cult's elders, intrigued by her rapid ascent, sent her on missions that spanned the globe. She ventured into forgotten ruins and uncharted lands, retrieving relics of arcane power long buried by time. With each artifact she uncovered, Tori felt herself drawing closer to the Black Talon. The pieces of an unfathomable puzzle began to align in her mind. The more she learned, the more her resolve grew, and with it, the shadow within her deepened. It was as though the deity itself was guiding her hand, molding her into something far more than human, and far less. Each time Tori stepped into the bleed, she felt its cold, unrelenting darkness seep deeper into her soul. It was no longer something to fear, it was something to embrace. She had welcomed the way it twisted within her, hollowing out the fragile remnants of who she once was. The bleed no longer terrified her, it exhilarated her. The chilling void made her feel unstoppable, a force shaped by something far greater than herself. As a trusted servant of the Black Talon, she no longer felt the crushing terror of being hunted. No, she had become the hunter. Tori pursued knowledge with an unrelenting focus, driven by a belief that her work for the cult was essential. To her, the path to transcendence required devotion, and the sacrifices demanded along the way were a necessary price. Yet not everyone shared her conviction. There were those who actively opposed them, blind to the greater purpose, painting them as a force for evil. Among their enemies was a paranormal investigator, a podcaster who used her voice to warn the world of the cult's supposed evil. She claimed the disciples of the Black Talon were not guiding humanity, but damning it. Her warnings reached many ears, but her crusade was cut short when she vanished while investigating an abandoned World War II bunker high in the shadow peaks of the French Alps. Her brother Jordan, however, was certain the cult was responsible, convinced they had silenced her to protect their secrets. Consumed by grief and anger, Jordan made it his mission to unmask the disciples of the Black Talon, to drag their hidden truths into the light of the day, whatever the cost. As Tori ascended to the highest echelons of the disciples, the veil of secrecy was lifted, revealing the cult's most sinister truths. She came to understand their rituals, their sacrifices, and the shadowy force they served. With each revelation, her bond to the darkness grew stronger. Meanwhile, Jordan uncovered one of their rituals planned to coincide with the grand opening of a new research facility built next to a recently found location for the Bleed. Armed with a camera, he captured the horrifying ceremony in secret. The footage was undeniable, a grotesque display that laid bare the heart of the cult. He posted the video online, determined to show the world the true face of the disciples of the Black Talon. But the cult's reach was vast, and its influence was deeply embedded into the systems of power around the world. In mere hours, the narrative was rewritten. The video was dismissed as a fabrication, just a tasteless prank. Everyone turned a blind eye, and Jordan's warnings fell on deaf ears. The disciples of the Black Talon were not content to let the matter rest, however. They considered Jordan a threat that had to be silenced, and they knew exactly who to send. Taurie was tasked with finding him and stopping his mission once and for all. The stakes were clear. If she succeeded, she would be welcomed into the inner circle, a step closer to becoming one of the most elite disciples within the Black Talon's domain. For Taurie, this was not just a mission, it was destiny. With unwavering resolve, Taurie tracked down Jordan. He woke, bound in a chair, in the dark basement. The air was damp and heavy. Draped in her ceremonial robe and faceless mask, Taurie stepped forward with a knife in hand, her movements deliberate. She had rehearsed this moment in her mind, seen it vividly in her dreams. Her whole life had led up to this. But now, standing before her captive, she faltered. You see, she had never taken a life. With everything she had done for the disciples, she had never crossed that threshold. And as she stood there, hesitating, staring at Jordan, an unnatural feeling crept up her neck, spreading over her ears, her face, her lips. Her hands trembled uncontrollably, the ceremonial blade in her grip wavering like a leaf caught in the wind. This wasn't like her visions. In those, she was a mere spectator, watching with detachment as her destiny unfolded before her. But now reality was different, harsh, immediate, overwhelming. Her mind raced, paralyzed by doubt and fear. The masters, watching from the shadows, began to stir, their patience wearing thin. But before they could move, Taurie snapped out of it and forced herself to act. She took a long, strained breath, steadying her trembling hands. The weight of their expectations, the promise of ascension pressed down on her. She reminded herself of the glory that awaited. With renewed faith, she raised her hands, ready to fulfill her destiny. But just as the blade descended, the room was swallowed by an unnatural black fog. It was thick and suffocating, a darkness that clung to her skin like frost. Time fractured, sound warped. Muffled echoes surrounded her, and the pressure in her ears swelled as though she were back in the Bleed. She struggled to make sense of her surroundings, but the void was merciless. But then, it cleared. Taurie blinked, her breath ragged, her heart pounding. The underground chamber was gone. Jordan was gone. She stood alone in a world of endless, suffocating night. The ground beneath her feet was cold and alien, the air alive with an ominous, unseen presence. She knew she was in the Black Talon's domain, but something was wrong. She could sense that she was not there as a disciple. She was there as a sacrifice. I want to take a moment to thank our channel members for their support of the channel. If you enjoyed that story, don't forget to let me know by teabagging the like button at the exit gate and leaving a comment down below to let me know which character you'd like me to do a lore video on next. Thank you for watching.